And to make this, you will need Aran weight yarn, 2 to 3 balls of 50 grams, and I have Drops Air Mix 1, which is baby alpaca and merino wool, and it's quite lightweight, I would say, because it doesn't feel super bulky, and this is what you want to use. So try to find something very lightweight to create this balaclava. But yeah, then you will need 5mm hook, scissors, and needle. To start off, you want to make a slip knot. Put your hook in and tighten it up, and chain 41. To do a chain, you yarn over and pull it through the loop on your hook. Yarn over and pull it through, and repeat this until you have 41 chains. Once you've got your chain, skip the very first one and go into the second one with single crochet. This is what you will repeat in all chains, and to do single, you go into your chain, yarn over and come back, then yarn over and pull through 2. So do that until the end of your chain, and you will have 40 single crochets. At the end of your row 1, chain 1, turn your work. And now for upcoming rows, you will be doing 40 single crochets, but into the back loop only. So if you look into the stitch, you have 2 loops. It kind of looks like V. That's your front and that's your back loop. So I'm just gonna go back, find that back loop of your first stitch and do single crochet, and then repeat this 40 times. So I'm gonna do mine, and I will meet you at the end of my row. At the end of row 2, chain 1, turn your work, and this is what you will repeat now. So that row 2 of doing single crochets into a back loop only until you have 27 rows in total. So going into the back loops only, do your 40 single crochets, then chain 1, turn and repeat until you have 27 rows. So I will do mine and I will meet you at the end. And once you've got your 27 rows done, this is how it will look. Now for the 27th row, it doesn't stop here, so don't chain 1, as we will be making stitches above this side now. So you have 27 rows, that means we will be placing 27 single crochets, 1 for each row. So straight in, I'm gonna go and do my single crochet, and you will see that these are not the stitches in just random spaces, as this is our side of the rows. So where you can find a spot, do that single crochet and make sure that by the end of this you have 27 along this side. But yeah, it should be pretty clear. You should be able to see the hole here, and then it kind of repeats. So there's this bigger hole and then smaller one here. That's for my 2 rows. So I'm gonna do that, and I will meet you at the end. And I now have 27 stitches here, and my row 27 now went from 40 single crochets to 67 instead, because my row is now in the shape of L basically. Now for row 28, you want to chain 1, turn your work, and we will be going back in that same L shape, going into the back loop only. So you will be doing 67 single crochets into the back loop. And this is how it will look when you finish your 28th row. So you just kind of go in the shape of L, then you will chain 1, turn your work and go up the same way, and you will be repeating this row total of 20 times, so until you have 46 rows. I'm gonna do that and I will meet you then. And once you are at the end, this is how it will look. And now we will start replicating this part. So this is how it should be looking so far. And we will now be building on these rows so it is symmetrical as this side as well. You want to go ahead and make 40 single crochets into a back loop. So I'm gonna do mine and I will meet you at the end. And once you've got 40 single crochets, it should be basically at the same spot where your these rows of 40 single crochets are, and you will have the same amount of stitches left that we did above this top here as well. So now after you've got 40 stitches, in the next two you want to do a slip stitch. So go into the first one, do a slip stitch, into the next one again, do a slip stitch, chain one and turn your work. So these two slip stitches that we made does not count as a stitch, and you simply want to skip them both. So 1 and 2, go into your last single crochet that you just made, and if it helps, when you finish that, you can put a stitch marker in so you don't get confused. Otherwise your row will increase in stitches. But yeah, I'm skipping those two and I'm again going to do 40 single crochets into a back loop only. Then at the end, chain one, turn your work, and this is how it will look so far. So these two rows will need to be repeated until you come to an end here, or another 12 times, so basically 26 rows in total. I'm gonna show you this one more time, so I'm just gonna make my way by doing 40 single crochets into a back loop as always. And at the end of my row, so I've got 40 single crochets, I'm skipping all of this bit because that's my previous two rows, and I'm gonna find the next two stitches of this row that we left. So that would be the first one, in which I'm gonna go and do a slip stitch. Again, you can put a stitch marker here so that when you do your slip stitches and chain one and turn, you know that this is the first single crochet you need to start doing your 40. But yeah, I'm gonna make a slip stitch in first stitch, try to make them as tight as you can, then chain one, turn your work, and if you look closely, this is your chain, your one slip stitch, second, and that's your first single crochet. So go into that and again do 40 single crochets into a back loop. At the end of the row, as always, chain one, turn, and you will now be continuing with those rows. So you can probably already tell that this is shaping into the same thing we did at the beginning, and with more rows you do, it's gonna be more visible, as long as you don't make any more or less stitches. So I would highly suggest using stitch markers for beginners just to make sure that you are going into the right stitch. But yeah, repeat those rows another 11 times. That will make 22 rows plus these 4, 26 in total. I'm gonna do that and I will meet you at the end. And when you finish doing all of those rows, you should be at row 72, and this is how it will look. So these two sides will be basically symmetrical, as you can see, and there's gonna be this top part here. But yeah, once you're done with that, now for the next 20 rows we will be doing a front neck ribbing. So basically going with single crochets for just that much for 20 rows. So I already chained one, turned my work, and I will be doing 18 single crochets into a back loop as always. Then chain one, turn your work, and again do 18 single crochets into a back loop only, and you will repeat this until you have 20 rows for this part. or until you have 92 rows in total. And when you finish those 20 rows, this is how it will look. Your hook should be at the bottom here. Then you want to fold it right sides in, just like so. And now you will need to do 18 slip stitches to join this together. So go into the first chain on your other side, then through the back loop of the current work and do a slip stitch. Repeat this 18 times until you finish joining this short bit, and I will meet you at the end. Once you are done, chain 1 and flip it right side out. Now for the ribbing part, you want to chain 7 and starting into second chain from your hook, go in and do 6 single crochets. Once you've got 6, you will then need to do 2 slip stitches in the next 2 spaces, because these are the side of the row, so they are not the stitches. So just find 2 spaces and do 2 slip stitches. Chain 1, turn your work and skip those 2 slip stitches you made, so 1 and 2, and go into your first single crochet, back loop only, and do 6 of them till you reach the end. Chain 1, turn your work and do 6 back loop single crochets. Then do 2 slip stitches into the next 2 spaces. Chain 1, turn, skip those 2 slip stitches and do 6 back loop single crochets. Chain 1, and this is what you will repeat. So you will do 6 single crochets into a back loop, do 2 slip stitches, chain 1 and turn. Then when you turn, you will skip those and do 6 single crochets back loop only. So just to show you one more time, go in and do those single crochets. Into the next 2 spaces, do slip stitch in each. Chain 1, turn your work. You are skipping those 2 slip stitches and going into single crochets only. As always, back loop. Then chain 1, and this is what you will repeat. So these 2 rows, and you will do this all around. So basically all around this opening here. And when you reach this side, so basically when you finish for this front neck part, it's gonna be easier because it will be the stitches. So you will simply go in and make 1 slip stitch in each. So do that and I will meet you then. And once you are done with the ribbing, this is how it will look. I ended up having 86 rows in total for that part. I'm now here where these 2 pieces meet, so you will want to fold them right sides in and do a slip stitches. So I'm gonna go into the back loop of the last row and through a foundation chain stitch, just like that. And because I had 6 single crochets, I'll do 6 slip stitches. Onto my last one, then chain 1 at the end, cut it off, and using your needle go in and hide that tail in. So I'm just going back into those slip stitches that I just made. I'm also gonna go into a couple of the stitches here just to make sure it's secure. cut it off, hide any of the tails that you have. I already did with these, and this is how it will look. It does look ridiculously big because it is oversized balaclava, but you saw at the very beginning how it looks. But yeah, apart from that, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to hit subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you in my next one.